Hello, my name is Alex Isles and welcome, and in today's episode we're going to be talking about a multi-purpose Roman transport ship. Welcome back. So in today's episode we're going to be talking about the Mainz transport. So this was found in Mainz in Germany and is a multi-purpose Roman transport ship from around about 300 AD. So this is quite different to the Watt barge, because the Watt barge is of a different time period. It's at the start of the 2nd century AD, and alongside that as well you've got to imagine settlements like Mainz and also the Colonia Ulpia Triana, which is now the Roman Museum at Xanten in Germany, were quite different. So like Colonia Ulpia Triana had just got to around about 10,000 people living there, was a Roman city, and was requiring loads of civilian goods as well as military goods to be delivered to it. And so those barges were fantastic ways of transporting the goods right the way up to the frontier, to this frontier, and supplying to the new citizens, to the Roman town, and also supplying area a lot of commercial goods. And they could also transport people as well. And as well as that, you also saw, if you've watched that video, they could be used as basically ferrying people between two sides of a riverbank. But this Mainz transport comes from a different age. It comes from the 4th century. And in the 4th century, you just have to look at the place, the Colonia Ulpia Triana has been changed because it was destroyed in the 3rd century by the Franks and then was rebuilt as a location called the 13th. I'm not even going to try the Latin, but you can look it up. But basically it was a smaller fortified settlement also on the river that was basically being used as a military base in the area. Very similar to how Mainz was also a large military base on the Roman frontier. So when you've got these military frontiers, the civilians are now pulling back from there. You still have some civilians, but it's a far less of a civilian area. And when you have a far less of a civilian area, you're now bringing up more military troops to deal with the incursions on the frontier, because the Germanic tribes are now hitting the Roman frontier over and over again for the benefit of obviously the spoils that they can get from these Roman settlements. And so the area becomes far more militarized, and you can see this with the change in the way the vessels are being used. So I'm going to be talking about a Lussoria in a wee bit, which is a Roman military vessel called a dancer, or translated in English it means dancer, and that was for transporting troops and was used for fighting. But alongside this as well, you also have these multi-purpose transports. And this multi-purpose transport was found near Mainz, and it's around about 300 AD when it was being used and was actually used as a transport on the rivers in around the German frontier. It's 18 meters long, 3.8 meters wide, and is 1.3 meters in height, which means that it could also be used obviously for people to duck down behind its defenses and basically get protection as well if there was an attack on it. And they reckon its sails would probably have been about 56 square meters in size, which you can see in the reconstruction just behind me of the model. Also, while I'm talking, obviously you can see as I walked around, I got you some nice shots of it, so you can get a sense of the size of this vessel. But it was probably used to transport goods all the way up to the Roman settlements, and probably military goods as well, but also troops and horses, because you'd be needing to move them slightly differently to how you would in a military strike vessel like the Dancer. So these are then being used to transport goods, troops, and also horses up to the military frontier, and also possibly as well in convoy as you're transporting large groups of soldiers up and down the Rhine to enable you to deal with incursions of Germanic tribes on the frontier. So it gives you a different purpose as well for this vessel than the barge. You've also got to think as well that the Roman economy has changed slightly. Instead of the taxation being taken directly in coinage, some of it was also taken in goods. And this was used to supply the military, because the military required a huge amount of clothing, food, resources and supplies, weapons. All of this would be drawn out of the provinces as a form of tax against that province. So because of that, these troop transports alongside that are multi-purpose transports, because they're transporting the goods required for the Roman soldier in the late Roman period. And so you've got a very well supplied logistical network transporting military goods up to the frontier to places like Xanten, to places like Mainz, and then from there they're able to provide an effective defense of the Roman frontier against the barbarian on the other side. So that helps you to understand how these vessels function. And one of the things I love about it as well is just on the front here, you can also see there is a depiction of Minerva, the Roman goddess of military strategy and a military goddess in her own right. Obviously, her Greek name is Athena, and when you've got her Greek name, she is the daughter of Zeus. She jumped out of her father's head, fully clothed in battle, and became an important goddess of the city of Athens. In the Roman world, as Minerva, she is a goddess of wisdom, but is also the goddess of military strategy and victory. And so on the vessel, when it was discovered, you've got Minerva on the front of it, which is an interesting one, and why I think it falls more into a multi-purpose military vessel rather than a pure civilian vessel or like a goods transport. This is being used by the army as a part of their logistical supplies, and they're calling upon the goddess to support and look after them in their campaigns against the Germans. At least that's my interpretation right there. I really hope you've enjoyed today's episode and it's given you another insight onto another part of Roman history that's often overlooked. If you have enjoyed the video, why not subscribe and also like the video and share it with your friends. And alongside that, if you'd like to support me further, I do have a Patreon and a Ko-fi account in the description below, but obviously no pressure from me, only if you want to. I really hope you've enjoyed the video and that you'll join us for another video in the near future. But until then, stay safe and well, and thank you very much.